Hey, Doc, you better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads?
Our laces.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
A feeling that I've lost as I've grown up, that I miss probably more than anything else, was the feeling of hope that I felt that the Back to the Future 2 sequel might come true. In the movie, main characters Doc Brown and Marty McFly
Jennifer's here with...
Well, bring her along. This concerns her, too.
traveled to the future of 2015, which is 30 years in their future, to stop Marty's idiot son from getting arrested because of peer pressure.
Have you made a decision about tonight's opportunity?
Yeah, Griff, you know, I was thinking about it. I'm not sure because it's a complete wimp.
Today's video is about that future, and about what it was like to watch for the changes as the real 2015 rolled around. Not that anyone was actually expecting the real 2015 to be like it was in the film, since we all knew that since Doc and Marty went to the future 2015 and then came back to 1985 having seen that future, that exact future could probably never come to pass, and since it was so far away, they made a huge butterfly effect, resulting in the future that we have now. But the popularity of the Back to the Future trilogy meant that when the real 2015 went around, we all had a lot of fun comparing it to the fictional 2015, and it turned out that the similarities and differences were fun to talk about. So I'm gonna do some talking about 2015 and how, in a weird way, Back to the Future 2 did kind of come true. Really, as a result of how good the filmmakers were at poking fun at trends that were current when they were making the movie. And we're gonna try real hard not to just say that movies in real life are different for however long this video ends up being. Movies in real life are different, but we all know that, now that I've explained it. One of the things that made the Back to the Future so entertaining was that the predictions in it weren't meant to be, like, real. They were meant to be funny.
Guys, hey, guys. All I want is a Pepsi.
CASEEN Gaines wrote a great book about the making of the Back to the Future trilogy called We Don't Need Roads. I got it in 2015. I think it might have even been released in 2015, and it's been one of my favorites ever since. It's where I learned that writer Bob Gale was avoiding predicting where technology was headed and instead was just trying to make jokes, expanding upon some of the gags and including some in-jokes to mock 1980s popular culture.
You mean you have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
So it's a future where you get flying traffic jams, where you get holograms that advertise endless sequels, and where everybody is getting impatient with the near instant service that they're getting.
Hey, fruit. Fruit, please.
So it's kind of like the present, but without 9/11 or COVID. According to Gaines, they also didn't want to repeat the Blade Runner future, which was kind of just depressing, so they went for a more clean and happy look, despite the fact that the story about Marty ruining his own life is still kind of depressing. Well, if you get depressed by basic peer pressure, which to be fair does get a lot of people.
Vision to think you're
Chicken. Nobody calls me chicken.
But as long as you could avoid that, the filmmakers made it a future that you could want to visit, if not actually live in. Film reviewer Roger Ebert put it well when he compared the future to the cover of old pulp magazines in his review from when the film came out. They were these covers where everything was like smooth and silver and looked like technology had advanced beyond our comprehension. It was back when we thought the future was going to be cool instead of scary. And that was the thing. Like any good comedy, people got the joke in Back to the Future Part 2.
I'm in the future.
future.
The screen-filled light show of a future wasn't exactly what people wanted. SHEILA Benson pointed out people might not want to live in Zemeckis and Gale's 21st century, but that the results are fun. Benson also pointed out the nearly familiar technology in the future's version of attention-grabbing trailers, nostalgia-themed diners, and skateboarding. Side note, we the people should put a lot more love into skateboarding. We all hate our phones now. I'm pretty positive that we could just get a skateboard thing going. I haven't seen a skateboard in like forever. 9/11 and COVID ruined everything. If they made Back to the Future Part 2 today, I bet the things that we would see would be things like a hologram for your vape, or a robot that like swipes, or it's just a robot arm and it swipes for you so you don't have to swipe, which I do hate swiping. I don't understand why we had to have that much interaction with it. I might be lazy. Or like AI babysitters. That's the sort of predictions that the movie was making, ones that were meant to poke fun at society, as well as be like visually interesting, and nobody really took it seriously at the time, save for the people who wanted hoverboards. Gaines explained that a joke video about hoverboards being real led to Zemeckis being harassed with calls for hoverboards. He said he doesn't have any real hoverboards, but if you had real hoverboards, would you tell, like, the masses? Keeps them all to himself so he can, like, put them under his car and have, like, a floating car. Or, like, if he has something heavy, he can get on one hoverboard, put the heavy thing on another hoverboard. But the people who wanted hoverboards weren't even, like, worried about the future part of the movie. They wanted the hoverboards in 1989. Before going backwards to or forwards, I guess, if we're coming from 1985 to the real 2015, I guess we're coming from 1989 because of the movie. Before we get into the real 2015, let's talk a little bit about 2014, because that was the first time that I saw one of those Facebook posts that had a time dial on it and said, "This is the day that Marty McFly came to in the future." Which was pretty funny that they started in 2014, because I'm pretty positive anyone who's seen the movie knows that it's 2015, because it's from 1985. That's how all the times that Marty travels to end in 5. So he goes to 1955 and then to 2015, and then he's in 1885 in the last movie. So 2015 was obviously the date. The actual day that Marty and Doc traveled to was October 21st, 2015, which I know because I had to look it up that day in 2014 and 100,000 times until 2016 rolled around and finally kind of put an end to that. And yes, I did have to look it up every time. I'm forgetful. The posts always had a fake time dial readout that showed the date of whatever was being posted, which I think you could just do in an app, which would let you see the flux capacitor and then see the time dial and stuff like that. I might have that app somewhere. Yeah, okay. So it was like this. Let me see. There you go, I think. And then I could turn the thing and it would show a time dial. And you can edit the time dial, I think. I'm sure you can. Time passed that I should be explaining that in 2015 our clickbait used to be dumber and our apps used to be like half toys. Sort of weird to think about how different the internet is today than it was in 2015, because in 2015 it was already so different from what it was in its like inception, well obviously in its inception, but you know, during the like heyday of like 2008, I guess. The internet's a thing that Back to the Future didn't guess, by the way. The dum-dums thought we were gonna go environmental with it. We're burning this planet before the sun even gets a chance, Zemeckis. We wanted a bunch of comment sections. So you put the fax machines everywhere together with the screens and the fact that they, I guess, could make phone calls, some of them at least, and the glasses. Like, there was sort of an idea, but like, the steps that the filmmakers took to show that we were gonna be more interconnected, and in the end, it's just a little rectangle. Like, it's one of the rare instances where they actually gave us a little too much credit, thinking that we were gonna have the patience to deal with multiple different devices everywhere. Anyways, the time dial posts, they were just this annoying clickbait that you saw like everywhere on the internet, I guess, which was like Facebook for me. At the time, Facebook and Instagram. I was 15. I think maybe people my age were on Reddit at this point. No, I think iFunny was still a thing. You would just see it and it would be the incorrect date put into one of those apps. Or maybe the date that Marty and Doc traveled to was like constantly in flux because of time wibbling and wobbling. I don't know. It was basically like a dying gasp of the silly version of the internet that started to go away around 2016. Like, the internet started as sort of a fun, not very serious place. It wasn't taken very seriously in terms of, like, getting any information from it. And it was also, like, everything was just wacky and meant to be sort of fun in the interfaces. And then all that started getting streamlined, but you still had, like, attempts to, like, celebrate a wacky thing, like a made-up holiday or something like that. Like, it seemed a lot more bubbly on the surface. It's also why, when I went looking for articles about how 2015 was similar to Back to the Future 2, I got a bunch of listicles. Because everything for a while on the internet was presented in list format. Everything had to be the top 10 or just 10 different ways that you could do things. It was like, I think it was because BuzzFeed was popular. Whatever though, that's the real 2016's problem. We're here to get back to the real 2015! Tried to do that a little cartoony so it didn't peak. I bet it's still gonna peak and sound annoying. 30 years went by, and what became funny was how much real life actually was like the film, and how people now wanted to be more like it. Mostly because we'd all really only gotten like the lame stuff of the future, the screens that got put everywhere, and the fake food, the sequels, the endless sequels. Nothing was flying though, or hovering, our clothes didn't auto-fit, and we're nowhere near Jaws 34. Jaws 19. The movie is, the sequel in the movie is Jaws 19. Sorry, I think I'm in my head a lot lately. I'm really scared about turning 34. I'm 26 right now, but I just feel like 34 is gonna be putrid. To be fair, the real 2015 was pulling its weight when it came to sequel spamming. 7 of the top 10 movies were sequels of some kind, with the top 2 being The Force Awakens and Jurassic World. Which is important because those 2 movies arguably sparked the, like, resuscitation and mass spread of legacy sequels across the late 2010s and early 2020s. A legacy sequel being a sequel to a movie that takes a really long time and is only really about how great the original movie was. Which is kind of funny because Back to the Future Part 2 also revisits its predecessor in the film, although they build off of the originals, or build another story on top of the original story in that, rather than like waiting a long time and then just going like, man, we really did a good job there. Real 2015 was also the year that we took those scooters with no handlebars and started calling them hoverboards. Because it seemed like we were nowhere close to actual hovering technology, but we figured we could just wish it true. According to an article by Oliver Laughland for The Guardian, Wiz Khalifa even tweeted, "I stand for our generation, and our generation is gonna be riding hoverboards," after he was tackled by the police for being on one. I guess that's one thing we have that Back to the Future 2 didn't. Policemen who keep musicians off of scooters. People also called out Back to the Future envy at the time, with Jessica Contrerra blaming the movie for our misnaming this device that refuses to hover even if you charge it long enough to explode. But we weren't just jealous of the hoverboards though. A lot of big comedy YouTube channels were putting out videos about how much Real 2015 sucked in comparison. College Humor made a video about Doc and Marty not liking Real 2015.
Yeah, I don't know what Vine is, but I hate them.
Honest Trailers pointed out what was right and wrong.
From the endless 3D sequels, to FaceTime, to the 80s nostalgia.
And How It Should Have Ended did a joke about them accidentally creating Real 2015 through time travel shenanigans.
Me telling you a little bit about your future will cause a chain reaction of events that will create an entire new timeline. Flying technologies delayed, Jaws sequels cancelled, different clothing styles, global warming.
Then Jimmy Kimmel did all 3 jokes. But he had the money to pay the real Doc and Marty. Which did we ever figure out why Marty and Doc are friends? Like, seriously, there's a story there. It's an old guy scientist and a teenager who likes rock and roll and skateboarding. Was Doc his speaker guy? Because they're like close friends. At the beginning of Back to the Future Part 2, Doc comes back and he's like, we have to do something about your kids. And Marty's not like, why are you checking in on my kids? I'm not sure which one of my friends would be able to invent time travel and then come find me and be like, we have to go save your future. I'd be like, what do you mean? Well, why do you think you can run my future better than future me can? Marty trusts Doc though. He's like, okay, we'll go figure this out. We'll go save you. If you say my son sucks, then we'll go make him not suck. I could almost see if after in Back to the Future Part 1, when Marty goes back and meets Doc in the past, how Doc could then be like try to seek out teenage Marty. It is a little creepy to try and think about, but it also can't be what actually happened because there's a different timeline at the end of Back to the Future 1, which means the first timeline we see, the original 1985 at the beginning of the first movie, Marty and Doc met somewhere. All I'm saying is I'm having trouble finding like an old guy scientist who also like is fun and wants to be my friend. It's not hard to be my friend. I have very few like rules, you know. Rule 1, have to be old. Rule 2, have to be a scientist. That's 2 rules. Those are the only 2. So if you can't match my energy, then I don't need to be your friend, is what I'm saying. And I guess that's what this whole section of the video is really about, is that I want an old guy friend and the rest of you can kick rocks. It wasn't Back to the Future's fault that they couldn't give us the pulp magazine future we all ended up wanting. I mean, they were trying to tell us how lazy we were. Anyways, I just like the way that it ended up being celebrated as a better alternative in the real 2015, when in 1989 people at least noticed that a lot of it was mocking popular culture. It aged well because Zemeckis and Gale were able to call out people's tendency to want everything fast and flashy. And that's a joke that has only aged better as we've gotten closer and closer to the future. It was a lot of clever concepts that were brought to life so beautifully by the cast and crew as well. I like that Marty's kids all are just Michael J. Fox too. That really doesn't have anything to do with it being in the future, but I feel like that's important to me. That all that's a very funny joke.
Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox.
More like a couple of teenagers, you know?
And Michael J. Fox.
Mom, is that you?
I wish more people looked like Michael J. Fox in real 2015. But I guess I get why people are so hard on the real 2015 in comparison, or were so hard on the real 2015 in comparison, because 2020 had yet to set the bar really low. Here in 2026, I'm not hoping for anything. I'm happy with what I've got. I like the little blob at the top of my phone that always tells me what album I'm listening to. I mean, I hate most everything else. We really are not in a great state as a country for one, but the world is just... But I'm focusing on the blob, lest 2037 end up teaching me a new low. I don't understand where hoverboards are yet, though. Like, why haven't we mastered floaty magic? But that's mainly the point. I guess I could talk about my own 2015. But I was 15 years old, so I spent most of my time in, like, antique shops and Wendy's. Hang on. Marty got food and went antiquing in Back to the Future Part 2. I'm a genuine 2015er. Anyways, I'm off again. Back in time. I'm trying to prevent my own birth. I do want to exist, but I also want to feel something. Namely that fatey hand thing. It looks so weird.